guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture.
And don't forget, if you want to listen to the news as a podcast when you're out and about, you can do so by searching for WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. But coming up today, more evidence that Jon Moxley is just a top bloke.
Vince McMahon is freaking out backstage in WWE, but not because of the reasons you think.
Has Triple H been demoted? Question mark.
Has WWE stopped paying the revival? Question mark.
And more developments with Nia Jax's return to WWE. This is the news.
And we're going to kick things off by talking about the only thing we can really kick this off with, the global situation, the ongoing current event that is really shutting the whole world down stage by stage at the moment, has had a devastating effect, as expected, on the wrestling schedule. I'm going to run through a few things that have happened since we last posted a news video. WWE have released an official statement on the status of WrestleMania 36. Yesterday there was a meeting in Tampa. The city of Tampa said that we are not going to cancel the event for you. We are going to wait until you act, but you've got until next week, essentially. So something could be coming next Thursday. But here's the WWE statement. I'll just read it verbatim. While we remain committed to hosting WrestleMania on the 5th of April, we are putting contingency plans in place in the event that it is cancelled by government officials, civil authorities, and our local venues. The health and safety of our fans, performers, and employees are top priorities, and we are monitoring the situation closely with our partners and government officials in Tampa Bay. This goes beyond WWE as well, though. AEW have been forced to reschedule the next 2 episodes of Dynamite. So the first one was next week's in Rochester, New York. It is now being held in Jacksonville, Florida, their home, with, and I quote, a restricted attendance policy. So presumably that'll only be essential personnel. The Blood and Guts episode, scheduled for Newark, New Jersey on the 25th of March, will also need to be moved because the building that was hosting it has suspended all events until the end of the month. There's no word on where it will be, but we're expecting an announcement hopefully later today. Now, SmackDown tonight has been moved from Detroit, Michigan to the Performance Center, and only essential personnel will be in attendance: technicians, ring crew, wrestlers, yada yada yada. WWE have cancelled 3 live events so far. Tomorrow in Toronto, Sunday in Youngstown, Ohio, and the 22nd of March in MSG. The XFL season has been suspended. However, they have confirmed that all athletes will be paid regardless, so that's nice to hear. WXW, the German promotion, has been forced to cancel their WrestleMania weekend show in Tampa because of the travel ban from European countries. This is only going to continue. We're going to have more and more cancellations, suspensions, disruptions, postponements over the coming days. It's going to get pretty crazy. We're going to break this down a little bit right now, but one point I'd quite like to kind of step aside and make right now relates to indie wrestlers relating to this WXW show. There's going to be loads of indie wrestlers who make loads of money over WrestleMania weekend. They're potentially going to be out of pockets hundreds and thousands maybe of dollars in some situations. If you have an indie wrestler you really like, if there's some group, maybe a promotion you really follow, maybe GCW, maybe Beyond, maybe someone else, maybe WXW, support them right now because they really need your income. If you were thinking about buying a t-shirt from them, go and do that right now. If you're thinking of signing up to a video on demand service, do that right now because they're going to have huge shortfalls in their income. They're going to be making a lot less money. A lot of these people are really going to struggle. It's going to be a really hard time for them. So if you've got some, I don't know, man, if you've got a spare $20 sitting around and you're like, hey, I really want to pick up that Chris Dickinson shirt I was thinking about, do it.
That's a good point. That's a very, very valid point. I've seen a lot of people talking about that online. You know what we should do? We should buy some indie t-shirts and try and wear them on the news next week.
That's a great show. That's a great show.
But yeah, I don't want to really fan the flames of this. You've kind of covered everything, but like you say, you can't help but feel that it's only heading in one direction. And whilst WrestleMania 36 isn't cancelled right now, with the way things are heading, not just in the world of wrestling, but generally in the world of sports, we mentioned the NBA season yesterday. I believe the NHL season's been cancelled subsequently.
Yes, yeah.
And you look at tennis, you look at F1,
Champions League and
Champions
everything,
League,
yeah.
The Euros this summer might be cancelled. It's only going in one direction, I sense. And it's really, really disappointing, of course, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the wrestling industry responds, because as much as, they've suggested, empty arenas or doing things in the Performance Centre, I don't know, I just don't feel the same. I was watching a bit of the Man United game last night on telly, and it was just a surreal atmosphere. They scored this absolute wonder goal, and it was greeted like this.
Yeah,
By like 4 people, and I feel like fans are obviously the lifeblood of wrestling, and without them there, I mean, people have suggested this, it just, like, imagine a WrestleMania with no one there. I saw someone posting a fake video of, like, Sasha Banks coming out to her entrance and crickets playing underneath.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the wrestler's worst nightmare, is coming out to crickets, but that's what's going to happen if we have an empty arena WrestleMania and shows like that. But who knows what's going to happen. We'll keep you posted, as Andy mentioned, as things develop. One thing we can confirm, of course, is the OTT, over-the-top wrestling show, Scrapomania 6, which is always great stuff, has been cancelled as a result of the things that are going on. On that show, it was going to be AEW World Champion Jon Moxley versus OTT World Champion David Starr. Really disappointing we didn't get that match, first of all. But in better news, Jon Moxley, being the lovely bloke that he has donated €1,000 to the OTT GoFundMe. Now, he wasn't really doing this as a big thing of like, I'm Jon Moxley, look at me being kind to this promotion.
Yeah.
He has subsequently changed the donation to an anonymous source, but Twitter user @BertMacklin316, as quick as he is, posted a screenshot saying that Jonathan Good, aka Jon Moxley, is the man behind the donation. And like Andy said, it's just, I suppose, Jon Moxley version of supporting the indies. And it's disappointing because, as you said, this WrestleMania weekend and everything like that, not just for WWE, it's sort of the Christmas of wrestling for wrestlers, and it's been cancelled.
Yeah, I love this from Moxley. It's just a really nice touch. Supposed to compete on the event. They set up this GoFundMe to compensate for lost revenue and so forth. Very generous stuff. Love to see it. Good guy. Thank you, Jon. Big time. Anyway, speaking of...
Even though he made me look like a fool when I said him leaving WWE's a work.
Well, you know, I've still got the tinfoil hat through the house. We can bust it out when needed.
Matt Hardy leaving the work.
Yeah, that's the new move. Let's move on. Let's talk about a situation brewing backstage in WWE completely unrelated to everything we've just talked about. So, Vince McMahon, there's a situation here. Cain Velasquez and Ronda Rousey posed in a backstage photo at WWE headquarters. I think it was last Friday. Cain put it on his Twitter account. It was everywhere. People were like, oh, are they coming back? Are they holding meetings? Blah, blah, blah. We mentioned it on our video, I believe. Well, this has caused quite a stir within WWE, according to Dave Meltzer in the recent edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. He claims that a source within the company has caused him that it caused all kinds of stuff. There was a commotion backstage. It caused quite the stir, in his words, because the whole thing was supposed to be kept under wraps. It was supposed to be a secret. Only a few top-level officials were meant to know about it. But Cain leaked it because he didn't know any better, unfortunately. He just posted this picture of him and Ronda backstage. Vince is apparently freaking out badly about this, but he doesn't know what to do because, according to the sources, he can't fire the leaker because the leaker was Cain, who he's invested in, and also Cain didn't know any better. He's an innocent guy. He just kind of thought he was just posting a nice photo of his friend from MMA. But there are other sources saying that more people are actually laughing about it than freaking out, which kind of makes sense. I mean, you know, Vince is kind of an eccentric guy. You can imagine him going, rah, 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 and everyone else just going, look at this guy. But at the same time, man, silly Cain, probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, but I mean, is people going to speculate? We've speculated ad infinitum about their returns anyway, whether or not there'd been a photo. Yeah. You could expect that if they are going to return, it was going to be something big like the shows after WrestleMania or whatever. So I don't think it's that big of a spoiler, but I do really enjoy the weird sort of distorted nature of the fact that Vince is going to be like, God damn it! I can't fire him because he's so important to us, but I'm angry, but I can't do anything, and I certainly can't job him out again because we already did that once in Saudi Arabia. What do I do? So, I don't know, it would be a bad time to be, I don't know, a wrestler that Vince McMahon doesn't. Ricochet.
Rick O'Shea, there you go.
Although Ricochet is happy, so I shouldn't say stuff like that. In other partially related news, perhaps, rumours doing the rounds that Triple H may have suffered a, quote, quiet demotion in the office. This is according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, as my mic falls off my leg. Now, of course, Triple H previously worked as the, I'm going to get this right, so I'm going to read it, Executive Vice President of Talent, Live Events and Creative. That was since 2013. His new title is Executive Vice President of Global Talent Development and Strategy. And I know what you're thinking. Those are two completely nondescript titles that do not explain anything. Well, Apparently, the details of this are that he's reportedly been moved away from being in charge of talent, and his main duties are now the growth and operation of NXT, selling NXT TV rights overseas, and the global expansion of the black and yellow brand. So what we can take from that, I suppose, is the fact that he will not be involved in talent development in NXT, which is presumably one of the big things he was desperate to get involved in, and one of the reasons why he put his heart and soul into NXT. So you can't help feel a little bit bad for him. It's reported that Chief of Staff Brad Blum, brother of Tom Thumb, wants to bang your mum. There you go. Took over Triple H's other duties as Executive Vice President of Operations. Interesting stuff, this, and lots of speculation, no doubt, coming off the back of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can talk a little bit about the reasons, but actually the great Michael Sidgwick is currently preparing a list article for the website, so stay tuned to whatculture.com/WWE if you want like a really comprehensive breakdown of what might have led to this. But just scratch the surface on that a little bit. Maybe the NXT ratings, they were kind of sent out there to like diminish AEW and so forth, but they haven't won in like 11 or since the 18th of December and so forth. I won't dive into that too much, but it's interesting because Paul, Triple H has always been presented.
First name term,
right? Paul, my mate, has always been kind of presented as the heir to the throne, the next in line, and so forth. Now, seemingly, that might have changed a little bit. It's just a really interesting thing to unpack and analyse.
I just like the words quiet demotion, because you think of Vince McMahon, you think of you're fired, and instead you've got you're demoted.
He whispered it to him in his ear tenderly one night in Stamford. Anyway, let's move on to another kind of, there's a lot of really big stories in this goddamn video. The Revival, right? They've not been on TV since the 31st of January. They've not been on a live event since the 1st of March. Looks very much like they've been sent home. And we've got a new report.
The Revival, more like the Bible.
Hey, reading the Bible. Rhymes are back, baby. We've got a new report from Fightful Select stating that WWE have either stopped paying these guys entirely or what's the exact quote? Extremely scaled back on what they've been paying them. This is because the Revival for the current financial period have already received their guaranteed downsides. That's the amount of money that they're guaranteed to receive regardless of other situations. So basically, WWE paid them the amount that it says on the contract and gone, hey, you're not getting any more because you're leaving, you scamps. A little bit to unpack here. Obviously, it's business, right? I mean, technically, by the letter of the law, the WWE haven't really done anything wrong here.
No, they paid the minimum that they said they would pay.
Yeah, and the Revival are almost certainly leaving within the next couple of months as well. Either way, sucks a little bit for Dash and Dawson, but I don't think that either of them will exactly be sitting there counting pennies or anything at the moment. No. So, here's hoping that whatever comes of this, I think the positive will be that those guys landing somewhere where they feel they are adequately compensated for their efforts and they are allowed to express themselves as top guys.
I feel like that bloke. Let my people go! I don't know what that's from, I've completely forgotten. But just everyone will be happier when they go.
Let the brothers.
You don't want to pay them, they don't want to be there, just let it happen. I realise they're probably going to go to your direct competitors, but they're going to go to your direct competitors in 6 months anyway. Yeah. What does it matter? Right, let's talk a little bit about Nia Jax. We reported earlier on this week she's been cleared to return to active WWE competition. And conflicting reports now coming out. We reported earlier on this week an eWrestlingNews.com story that's saying that Nia was going to SmackDown. Well, now Dave Meltzer, in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, says that current plans have Jax working Raw, not SmackDown. What do you make of this?
Ooh, so a little bit of conflicting reports there, baby. What was the report earlier this week that Jax was going to show up on this Friday's SmackDown, which will be weird because it'll be in an empty building, so they'll totally diminish any pop. Different people have different sources who tell them different information all the time. The reliability of the sources should always be taken with a pinch of salt, but I'm inclined to believe Dave in this situation.
And I sense that, certainly with the situation as it is, she probably won't return tonight.
Yeah.
And anyway, someone like Nia Jax merits a return post-WrestleMania.
Yeah, exactly.
But let us know who show you'd like to see her on in the comment section below. And we'll move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCultureWWE. Matt McDonald gives us our first question of the day, saying, with Rezar injured this week during Raw, who would you like to see join Rollins' gaggle of bastards to replace him?
I had to think about this because I was just thinking who's a good fit and who's not really doing anything. And A guy who's been on Raw for something like a year and a half or 2 years, who's done literally nothing, aside from the odd backstage skit when he gets beaten up by Seth the Chef, is Eric Young.
Yes, he's great, Eric Young.
Yeah, he's like a good pro. He's very charismatic. He's a great character. He's a good wrestler, and he's just kind of not doing anything and not really appearing, and I don't even know if he's on main event these days. So yeah, Eric Young, man, he's played these group roles before as well.
And you could have a nice bit where Seth tries to convince him to join, considering that Seth previously just beat the crap out of him with a chair a few
There's
months
your
ago.
angle. Boom.
Mine's fairly obvious. You need someone big to replace Razor. You need someone who's got experience of being in a successful stable. You need a Titus Worldwide!
A successful stable, yes.
Was successful won the Cruiserweight Championship for Akira Tozawa, so what do you want? Next question comes from Dan Garner, who says, so if this thing is going to cancel WrestleMania, what do you think will be the economic effects on the wrestling industry, and is it going to stop the rise of AEW?
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough one for the business as general, isn't it? I think that WWE will be absolutely fine because, you know, WrestleMania is responsible for something like $25 million of revenue, but they've got guaranteed TV money. They're sitting on a mountain of cash. They're failure-proof. No problems. AEW will be interesting. I don't know if their new TV deal is guaranteed, and neither does anyone, seemingly. So it depends on whether or not they're able to produce the shows, potentially. I think they will experience more of a struggle. They maybe are a little bit more dependent on live revenue than WWE, even though their Dynamite tapings only attract like 3,000 to 5,000 people a week. It's still a shortfall of revenue. The real, and we mentioned this in the first story, the independents are going to suffer the most, I think. A lot of these indie groups, right, they run on a loss for much of the year, and then they go to WrestleMania weekend and they have a big show where they can charge $40 a ticket, and they have all these great wrestlers on it that they wouldn't maybe normally be able to book, and they make all the money back, and it keeps them in the black for the year. If they can't do that, they're going to have obvious difficulty. So I don't really want to speculate on any group's specific future, because I think that'd be disrespectful, and I, by no means, am no financial expert, but it's going to be a rough time for a lot of smaller groups in particular.
And very quickly, just to deal with the question about WWE going to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania, that can't happen either.
No, Saudi Arabia is, they've shut down live attendance at all events as well. So there you go.
Final question today comes from Christopher Blade, who says, what do you think is a catchphrase or tagline that a wrestler is missing out on? For example, apples and grapples for QT Marshall, or flips and lips for Sonny Kiss.
Flips and lips. That would...
It's great stuff, that. Any taglines or nicknames that you want?
Yeah, I mean, mine's not really a wrestler, but Tony Khan, man, he's the sugar man, right? He's sweet Tony K, sweet Tony Bay. He's the man sprinkling that sweet, sweet sugar on American wrestling with his nice product and stuff. Embrace it, baby. Become the sugar man. Embrace the carbohydrates within Tony. Become the sugar man. Don't be Tony McCann or whatever, Vince McCann, whatever you want to call yourself, man. Embrace. I want to see that man in a sugar cube costume on the next episode of Dynamite, live from Daly's place. No one else is there. Sugar Man comes through, throwing bags of castor and stuff. I've worked myself into a shoot here, but do that, please, Tony.
My one, I'm going to stick with AEW. Hangman Page. Beers, cheers, and beers again.
Beers, cheers, and steers. He likes horses.
All good stuff.
There you go.
And then more beers.
Did you see that the horse in his entrance video has a little willy now?
No, I did not see that.
A little dangler flapping about.
I was not looking out for that, so good
Why?
spot. Well, we're going to move on to today's and finally, but we've mentioned it already. Just go and support your favourite independent wrestler because they deserve it. Let us know your thoughts on all of today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Daddy Boys will preview SmackDown a little bit later on today. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. And watch there, follow both of us. You can follow him at...
You can follow me at Andy H. Murray, and it's the same as yesterday. The H stands for hand sanitizer, which this time I am not going to sell to Adam here for a napkin. Look, man, you gotta look after yourselves. You gotta take every single precaution. Make sure it's got a high alcohol content. Don't drink it though, you rascals. This one is 57% ethanol. So there you go.
Nice.
Look after yourselves. Wash your hands. Take care. If you want to live in bubble wrap, live in bubble wrap. Just whatever you can do, man.
Follow me at Adam Wilmore. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. For now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thanks to you for watching. We will see you soon.
I should have been a doctor, man.
Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, here to let you know we want your live event videos, whether that be something that happened after the cameras stopped rolling or your reaction to something amazing that went down at the show you were at. Stuff like this.
One of the other sweetest things I've ever seen was just recently when we saw Roman Reigns kick the shit out of cancer and come back on Monday Night Raw.
Well done! Still a work!
Still a work, it's still a work! So make sure you send them to us in all the usual ways. You can tweet them at us, you can send them to us on Facebook, you can email them to us. Hell, if it's your sort of thing, you can stick them on a memory stick and post them to WhatCulture. But the one thing you need to remember is good, bad. Thanks for watching. Bye.